Recently, I came across a video on TikTok that didn't make much sense, until I dug deeper. It turned out to be far more disturbing than it first appeared. On July 12, 2025, a 15-year-old girl named Nicole Fernanda Poger, who used TikTok like many teenagers, from her home in Mococa to the city of Hortolândia in Sao Paulo, Brazil. She went there with a hopeful heart, planning to reconnect with her 17-year-old ex-boyfriend, someone she had known since elementary school, not knowing that the visit would end in betrayal and unthinkable violence. Nicole was described by her family as cheerful, outgoing, and full of life, and like other teenagers, she enjoyed making TikTok videos. She had stayed in touch with her ex-boyfriend, Enrique, through social media after her family moved away, and when she decided to visit, she believed she was simply going to spend time with someone she still cared about. She stayed at his modest home, a small house he shared with his father, and everything at first seemed normal. Things weren't as they seemed. Her ex-boyfriend was already dating another girl, 14-year-old Evelyn from the same area, and what looked like normal teenage jealousy quickly turned into something much darker. What you just saw was Enrique, her ex-boyfriend, entering the house with an empty wheelbarrow. On that day, tensions reached a breaking point. When Nicole learned about his new girlfriend, an argument broke out. Voices were raised, and then, in a moment that no one could have expected, the situation turned violent. Inside the living room of that small house, the two teens, the ex-boyfriend and his new girlfriend, attacked Nicole. They later claimed that Nicole had attacked them with a knife, but investigators quickly discovered that the evidence told a different story. She had been stabbed repeatedly in the back, the abdomen, and other parts of her body, far beyond anything that could be seen as self-defense. What's even more disturbing is what happened next. In a desperate attempt to cover up the crime, the pair dismembered her body using household tools and carved the initials PCC, the name of a notorious Brazilian prison gang, into her skin to make it appear as though the killing was gang-related. They wrapped her remains in bedsheets and a blue tarp, weighed them down with stones, and under the cover of dusk, wheeled them in an old, rusty wheelbarrow to a nearby lagoon where they dumped the body and walked away as if nothing had happened. For days, Nicole's family searched for her. Her grandfather filed a missing person report, and on July 18th, a search dog led police to the lagoon in Jardim Amanda Furser. What they found confirmed the family's worst fears: a partially submerged torso, later identified through DNA, and a tattoo that matched Nicole's. More remains were recovered during cleanup efforts that followed. The two suspects fled to Paraná State, but they were caught on July 20th through a coordinated joint police operation between São Paulo and Paraná State Police. They were hiding at the 17-year-old's grandmother's house in Cornélio Procópio, Paraná. When questioned, they both confessed to the killing, though they tried to maintain that it had been an act of self-defense. That claim, however, fell apart as forensic evidence revealed premeditated violence. The case was officially classified as femicide. As if that was not enough, using Nicole's mobile phone, the teenagers sent messages from her account to her friend group on July 15th, 3 days after her death, making it appear she was still alive and active. This calculated act was designed to delay discovery and confuse the investigation timeline. But when private messages recovered during the investigation revealed disturbing premeditation, the boy had allegedly sent messages indicating he only pursued Nicole after seeing his ex with another person, referring to Nicole as someone else's and expressing disgust toward her, stating, "If she wants, I'll get rid of that girl she hates. I don't like her either." He used Nicole to make his ex-girlfriend jealous, and the two teenagers conspired to deal with their perceived rival. Nicole's mother, Priscilla Magrin, who was pregnant at the time, spoke publicly about her grief and anger, calling for change. She began advocating for a new law, Lei Nicole Poger, which would increase penalties for minors involved in violent crimes. As of October 2025, both teens remain in socio-educational detention under Brazil's child and adolescent statute, facing a maximum sentence of 3 years, a punishment many see as far too lenient for the crime committed. The case has fueled public public debate about juvenile justice and the lack of mental health and social support systems for young people in Brazil. It was only because the body was found so quickly that investigators were able to uncover the truth. Without that, their plan to disguise the killing as gang violence might have succeeded for much longer. While no one can ever fully understand what triggered the final confrontation, reports suggest that jealousy, deception, and emotional instability all played a role, a mix of teenage impulsiveness and unchecked anger that spiraled beyond control. Honestly, no teenager should ever find themselves in a situation like this. Whether through better education, stronger family guidance, or better mental health support, something needs to change, because when emotions turn violent at such a young age, it doesn't just take one life, it breaks many others around it forever. On July 3, 2025, an Italian motorcyclist named Omar Farangzin began what was supposed to be a peaceful and exciting ride through Romania's Carpathian Mountains. The journey was meant to be memorable, but it turned out to be his final one. The Transfagurashan Highway, where he was riding that day, is known around the world as one of the most beautiful roads ever built, a 90-kilometer stretch of curves and bends that winds through tall mountains and deep valleys near the Vidraru Dam. Omar, a 48-year-old man from Samarate, Italy, was among those drawn to its beauty, but somewhere along the road, he noticed a brown bear on the side of the mountain, a common sight in Romania, which is home to Europe's largest bear population. To him, it probably seemed like the perfect moment to stop, to take a closer look, and to capture a once-in-a-lifetime memory. What begins as a small act, throwing food or stopping for a quick photo, can turn dangerous very quickly. Omar decided to pull over. He parked his motorcycle, stepped off, and moved closer, holding some food in one hand and his phone in the other. The photos he took show his excitement, standing just a few meters away from the bear. But what he didn't realize was that this wasn't a lone animal. She was a mother, and her cubs were nearby. Moments later, everything changed. The bear suddenly lunged, attacking with powerful swipes of her paws and deep bites, dragging him roughly 80 meters down a steep, wooded slope. Other motorcyclists nearby heard the screams echoing through the trees and called for help. When rescuers finally arrived, what they found was devastating. Omar's body had been severely mauled, his helmet and gear offering little protection against the bear's strength. The mother bear, still agitated and defensive, turned toward the rescue team, forcing hunters to act quickly and shoot her to protect the responders.
Guardate l'orso, ma che bello!
Her 3 cubs scattered into the forest, leaving behind another tragedy, their future uncertain. As of October 2025, no new updates have been released about the cubs or the results of Omar's full autopsy, but the incident reignited debates across Romania about tourist safety and wildlife protection. Authorities reminded visitors not to feed or approach bears, as even well-intentioned interactions can end in disaster. As per the reports, it was later concluded that the attack was most likely the result of the bear defending her cubs, combined with the risky behavior of feeding and the steep terrain that worsened the fall. What feels like a harmless photo or small gesture can endanger both humans and the animals themselves. Honestly, no picture or memory is ever worth risking your life for, and this tragedy shows why some boundaries in nature should never be crossed. On the evening of September 24, 2025, what began as an ordinary walk for 62-year-old Trina Jones turned into a night of tragedy along the busy Richmond Highway in Hybla Valley, Virginia. Richmond Highway, also known as Route 1, is one of Fairfax County's busiest roads, a long stretch filled with traffic lights, fast-moving cars, and clusters of shops and small businesses. That night, Trina was crossing the road near Belford Drive, a familiar area to many residents. But as she made her way across the lanes, a black 2016 Mercedes C300 came speeding down the highway, striking her with enough force to throw her onto the pavement. The driver did not stop. Hit-and-run crashes like this are tragically common on busy urban roads. The driver escapes into the night, leaving the victim alone, exposed and helpless in the middle of the street. But in Trina's case, bystanders quickly ran to help. Against all odds, she was still conscious, able to speak, and she refused to be moved from the spot where she had been hit. She told those around her that she wanted the police to see exactly where the impact happened. One driver parked their car nearby to block oncoming traffic and protect her from further harm. A small but selfless act in a moment of confusion and fear. Minutes later, the flashing lights of a Fairfax County police cruiser appeared in the distance. Officer Jalen Phillips, a 2-year veteran, was responding to the hit-and-run call, driving carefully through the heavy traffic at less than 20 miles per hour, weaving between the stopped cars. But in the confusion, tragedy struck again. As the officer entered the intersection, his vehicle made contact with Trina, who was still lying in the roadway. The dashcam recorded the dull impact, followed by the officer's shocked voice over the radio.
Please do not tell me I just ran her over.
Of course, due to YouTube guidelines, I can't show the video without a blur, but if you look closely, you'll notice she was lying on the footpath, right where he ran over her. He got out from the car immediately, calling for help as medics rushed to the scene. They performed CPR and transported Trina to the hospital, but despite every effort, she did not survive. In the days that followed, investigators recovered the Mercedes in Manassas Park. The driver, believed to be a man in his mid-30s wearing dark clothing, remains unidentified. Detectives continue to analyze evidence, including DNA and GPS data from the recovered car. The incident has raised questions about how emergency responses are handled in crowded roadways, whether better communication, clearer visibility, or secured perimeters could have prevented the second tragedy that night. Many have also pointed to deeper issues: the lack of proper lighting, the limited crosswalks, and the general danger pedestrians face along that stretch of highway.
Certainly for Trina Jones, that outcome was not an outcome that anyone intended, to include our officer, who is a stellar young police officer assigned to the Mount Vernon district. It's a traumatic incident for him.
Watching the video, it's very clear that the view was completely unobstructed from this young officer as he approached the scene. He knew exactly where the intersection was.
While bystanders that night did everything they could, their efforts were not enough to stop what came next. It's heartbreaking to think that Trina Jones survived one impact, only to lose her life minutes later in the same place she waited for help. On October 19, 2025, what started as a heated argument in a Pasadena, Texas apartment turned into a deadly vehicular assault for Alina Gonzalez Morelos and her husband, Leonardo Mendoza. You see, Pasadena is an industrial suburb southeast of Houston with bustling neighborhoods like Red Bluff Road, where everyday family life can hide underlying tensions from marital strife and alcohol-fueled disputes. However, this couple, married with 2 young children, had been dealing with ongoing issues, and that night, Gonzalez Morelos returned home intoxicated from a party, sparking a fight over a suspicious text message that their kids overheard. These kinds of domestic arguments are all too common, often escalating when emotions run high and judgment is impaired by substances. But when Mendoza fled the apartment on foot to de-escalate, heading toward a nearby parking lot by a Kroger and gas station, this happened. The tension boiled over as Gonzalez Morelos got into her black Chevrolet Tahoe SUV and pursued him, accelerating onto the sidewalk and curb in a deliberate maneuver. Eyewitnesses at a gas station watched in shock as the vehicle jumped the curb, struck 2 poles, and collided with Mendoza, sending him to the ground with severe injuries. Luckily, or tragically, he was rushed to HCA Houston Healthcare Southeast Hospital, but despite medical efforts, he succumbed to blunt force trauma shortly after. As of October 2025, Gonzalez Morelos has been charged with first-degree murder and remains in Harris County Jail without bond, with no further updates on her case or plea.
As far as we know, there was just some marital issues going on. She'd come home around 2 o'clock that morning. The children overheard them having an argument inside of the room. He exited and she followed.
Many people are questioning the role of alcohol in domestic violence incidents like this, where intent can blur the line between assault and homicide under Texas law. It was reported that she voluntarily turned herself in hours later, confessing she meant to hit but not kill him, highlighting how intoxication can lead to catastrophic decisions without full foresight. While it's still unclear if prior unreported abuse played a part, investigators cited the argument's intensity and her pursuit as key factors, with surveillance video capturing the chase and impact. Honestly, no domestic dispute should ever escalate to the point where vehicles are used as weapons. Even in the heat of the moment, turning to counseling or support hotlines could help prevent tragedies that leave lasting scars on families and communities.